I'm in 25 different detention facilities where I see mass Catholic services in all the probation camps, juvenile halls, youth authorities. And usually on a Saturday, I will do 2 masses in Las Afueras in the boonies, and then I race back to Dolores Mission because I have so many things. I've been there for 25 years and the homies asked me to do stuff. So my Saturday always looks sort of the same. 1 o'clock baptism and 2 o'clock quinceañera when a girl turns 15. At 3 o'clock wedding, 4 o'clock exorcism. Just checking to see if you're still listening to me. I've never done one of those. But anyway, so I raced home one day and it's 20 minutes to 1. And I thought, well, I'm going to go to my office. I'm going to go through my mail all by myself. So I go there, and there I am, contento, feliz. When all of a sudden a woman barges into my office, I find out her name is Lisa. She's 34 years old. This is the first time she's ever stepped foot in my office. Oh, everybody knows her. They've seen her around. She's kind of a famous street person, prostitute, heroin addict, gang member, tattooed, felon. She's something of a famous peleonera and a gritona. She's always fighting. She's always screaming. You can hear her scream as she gets tossed out daily from the bar next door. You can hear her scream into a payphone on First Street, just let me stay tonight, pleading with family members and friends. And this is the first moment she's ever stepped foot in my office. And now it's 7 minutes to 1. She comes in, she plunks herself down, she launches right in. I need help. Ooh, I've been to like 50 rehabs. I'm known all over, nationwide. Went to Catholic schools all my life, she says. Graduated from elementary, graduated from Sacred Heart High School in Lincoln Heights. And then she gets quiet and still. And she says, in fact, first time I ever used heroin was right after I graduated. And I've been trying to stop since the moment I began. And I watched as she leaned her head against the wall behind her, and her eyes became like 2 ponds, water rising to meet its edges and spilling over. And she cried until finally she leveled her eyes at me. And she said with great deliberation, I am a disgrace. And suddenly her shame meets mine, because when I had seen her step into my office that afternoon, I had mistaken her for an interruption. We're in this together. Kinship, only kinship. The measure of our compassion lies not in our service of those on the margins, but only in our willingness to see ourselves in kinship with them. For we do not seek a compassion. The compassion of Jesus is the one we seek, the one that can stand in awe at what the poor have to carry, rather than stand in judgment at how they carry it. In the early days, years ago, in our first office, a bunch of kids coming home to the projects from middle school and elementary school, they'd all come in. And one of the kids was a kid named Betito. And Betito was a little 12-year-old kid who English was not his first language, but he always insisted on speaking English with me, even though he'd operate without benefit of a net sometimes. And he loved to find these expressions that he'd hear on TV, a Pollo Loco commercial, and then he'd try them out on me. Hey, G, you know what you are? I go, what? You're the real deal at $1.99, and he was a precocious kid. I remember he came in once, he said, hey, G, kick me down with 20 bones, yeah? I want to take my lady to the movies. I go, my God, your lady? How old are you? 12. 12? How old is your lady? 16? I go, 16? He goes, yeah, but she's short. Here's $20. Have a good time. Well, one Sunday night, Monday was a holiday or something. Kids were playing, and Beto was out there with his cousin. And there were two gang members standing in front of a dumpster smoking cigarettes, and a van slowly came in. And two guys are in the van with their faces covered, and they roll down the windows, and they begin to shoot. And one of the gang members in front of the dumpster falls. Every man, woman, and child in the projects knows that if you hear shooting, you start running. But for some reason, Beto didn't run, he didn't move, and because he didn't, a very large bullet entered his side and traveled through what they call a through and through. Later, a friend of mine who was the doctor in the ER said the caliber was so high and it was such a large bullet that the sheer reverberation of it traveling through his body had rendered Betito paralyzed, though it didn't touch his spine. I race to the hospital and I keep vigil with his grandmother. And he survives a 4-hour surgery. But an hour into his recovery in the ICU, I watched through the window as nurses and doctors run in and pound on his chest and plead and bargain with his heart. And it just won't cooperate. And he died. Now, Beto was 12 years old, and he was the real deal. But so were the two in that van that evening. And is there room in our compassion to include all of them? And so Jesus asks us that because he always had room. He excluded nobody. And so we imagine a circle of compassion, and we imagine nobody standing outside that circle.